Provost, Lord Lyon, ladies and gentlemen, heraldic friends It's good to be back in Inverness. Indeed, 1958, when I was 15, I was here for the first time on the bike, and God willing and weather permitting, I'll be back here on a very different bike next month. This is such a handsome city. It's absolutely stuffed full of heraldry, and I love coming here. Well, what is heraldry, we might ask ourselves? In a nutshell, just as a signature represents written identity, so heraldry represents visual identity. And as with a signature, it says who you are. And this system of visual identity has flourished in Scotland for more than 800 years. End of history lesson, because as the Lord Lyon said, I'm an unashamed modernist looking forward to the present and the future. And so, without in any way knocking the ancient and the medieval, this lecture examines the present and some of the context that's created this present. Above all, this evening's story reflects what I think has been a rise in grants of arms in Scotland, and it certainly reflects a rise in interest in heraldry. Some evidence for this lies in the extra hard drive now attached to my computer, my overloaded computer, stuffed with high-res images of new arms. And I want to ask how and why this has occurred, and what use heraldry today is put. I also want to put in an unashamed sales pitch and ask how we ensure that more people take up heraldry and gain arms, or gain arms and then take up heraldry. And there may be conclusions to be drawn as well. We'll see. Where do we commence? Two starting points. The first being that facts are shields that win a ding. A search of the Lyon Office registers across 3 centuries reveals these appalling figures. 14 grants or matriculations in 1720, 4 in 1820, 30 in 1920. Goodness me, these figures would shock any work-study manager or any time-and-motion engineer. These days, we produce easily more than one new coat of arms a week. And the second starting point is the Edinburgh postcode EH1 3YT, the home of Lyon Court. What kind of reception do visitors and intending armigers, an armiger is a coat of arms, owner of a coat of arms, what kind of welcome do they receive? Is it warm? I was just 23 when I first crossed that threshold the spring of 1967. I had no appointment, but the staff of Lyon Office dealt with my query with patience and kindliness, and I have to wonder how different life might have been had Lyon Office then lived up to the chilly pantomime description of Edinburgh folk as East Windy, West Endy. That was me converted. I gained my own arms in 1986 and have thoroughly enjoyed being swept up in heraldry ever since. So while I'm an unashamed modernist in promoting heraldry, I've been by no means alone. I think back to Fenton Wyness, great Aberdeen friend, and these are his arms, who from 1966 mentored not only my latent interest in heraldry, but many more. Indeed, Tony Wyness provided great assistance for corporate bodies and advised for the arms of Inverness Field Club. And now today, a great Aberdeen friend, Ronnie Watt, OBE, someone whose enthusiasm for heraldry verges on that of a Hoover salesman. It's said that if Ronnie ever needs to look for a job, he surely has one ready-made in arms sales. Have a wee look at the motto there. It's in Latin and it means, lead on, brave heart. Ronnie's a great enthusiast for Japan, and he tells me that when it's translated into Japanese, however, it means heart attack follows. On the corporate front, too, the Scottish Catholic Church, just to name one of our many churches, has been no slouch in gaining arms for dioceses and bishops, people such as the Most Reverend Mario Conti, a great Aberdonian known to so many of us. And when he was Bishop of the Granite City, his personal efforts ensured that St Mary's Cathedral in Aberdeen had a superb display of heraldry of people and the offices they hold. And this was followed by Monsignor Charles Burns, who ploughed another great heraldic furrow. Indeed, he designed the arms for the Most Reverend Philip Tartaglia, late Archbishop of Glasgow. And Archbishop Tartaglia's research for his doctorate was the mystery of the Eucharist. His heraldry prefigured that of the Eucharist, the miracle of the 5 loaves and 2 fishes. 2 salmon occupy the centre of the shield, 5 loaves in the bordure. But they've been cleverly Scoticized as bannocks. There are some 1,200 active community councils in Scotland. How many have arms? Getting on for 500. Here are the arms of the Community Council, what a rare series of names, of the Community Council of Gaventon, Foggo and Polworth in Berwickshire. And here they're shown impaled or conjoined with the personal arms on the right of my great friend John Marshbanks, then Council Chairman. So what local community councils do you know who possess arms? Or more to the point, who don't possess arms? Community councils are a great way of getting heraldry across. Indeed, 30 years ago, a small group of us started pushing heraldry for community councils. We advised on finance and how to get it, how to devise ceremonial in presenting letters patent, that's the formal legal document that grants a coat of arms. And we then came up with a series of simple ceremonial whereby the letters patent would be paraded through the street with a parade of local worthies headed by a pipe band, and here with the Lonach Highlanders of West Aberdeenshire as guard of honour. If you look closely, the incredibly young man, bottom right in both pictures, is your ancient lecturer tonight. And then followed a formal handover by a herald from Lyon office, and this simple system worked alphabetically across Aberchirder, Braemar, Ellen, Keith, Kilsyth, Peterhead, Whitehills, and even as far away as Wigton in Galloway. A major boost in promoting modern heraldry in Scotland came about in 1998 in the unlikely venue of Peterhead Museum. Yes, the very same museum that recently lost a £12 million Veronese painting weighing a ton and which hasn't been seen since 1904. How do you lose that? This was the first heraldic exhibition ever mounted north of the M8, and it was also the largest collection of civic heraldry ever gathered together in one place in Scotland. This month-long exhibition attracted more visitors in 4 weeks than the museum normally received in a year. Who said heraldry is dull and boring? Nor was the occasion simply an inactive display. There was a reception held at which the letters patent of the newly created Peterhead Bay Authority were proclaimed in some style by Charles Bonnet. He, on the right, one of the heralds, shown here unusually with his eyes closed. Why wasn't he in full fig? Well, his uniform as a herald formed one of the items on display. And also on show were further modern items, including this beautiful hall chair created for an Aberdeen lady in 1995. And then big events. The advent of the biennial International Genealogical and Heraldic Congress in St Andrews, 2006, saw further outpourings of modern heraldry. And thanks to exuberant and effervescent planning, a gorgeous week-long feast of heraldry came into being with a parade, books published, and a heraldic exhibition. Here we show the crown of the Lord Lyon, which was on show there and was made in very recent years because our original crown had become lost. Let me say at this point, ladies and gentlemen, I've held the crown in my hands, and it's surprisingly heavy. With respect to the Lord Lyon, I haven't put it on yet. A decade later, Scotland once again seized the Congress chalice, with the venue this time being in Glasgow. And introducing the Congress was another opening parade, plus a week-long exhibition in the conference venue of Trade's House. It's itself a treasure trove of heraldry. Glasgow excelled itself, and there's no doubt that through the many colourful and informative messages delivered, many an overseas delegate departed, wishing that he or she had had the benefit of living under our Scots heraldic system. Why? Because in Scotland, heraldry is egalitarian. A duke and a dustman may both stand before the Lord Lyon seeking arms, and I should also add, on this International Women's Day, a duchess and a dustwoman may also stand before the Lord Lyon, because here in Scotland, women and men have been heraldic equals since the dawn of time. Tell it not in Gath, but a fact that doesn't always pertain in a certain land immediately to the south of us. Half a dozen heralds assist the Lord Lyon in his work, and one of them is my old friend Liam Devlin, sitting at the back there tonight, who holds the office of Rothsay Herald. And the ever-energetic Liam built on the back of the success of the event in Glasgow by organising a year later another heraldic show, again in Glasgow. And while the display was open to the public, Liam organised a stream of primary school visitors, youngsters who crawled over, through and under the exhibits before heading off to classes, headed by heraldic artists, where they learned their first lessons in how to create a coat of arms. If there's a moral to this tale so far, it is this: the fact that people see more heraldry makes them themselves see yet more heraldry. But now for a health warning, and it's an 8-letter word called internet. As a journalist, my occupation deals, or should deal, in facts. Facts on heraldry on the internet are a two-edged sword, and it leads to such tosh as, "My name's MacDonald, and I have my own crest. I know, I found it on Google." So while there's no doubt that the internet and social media are allies in creating awareness of heraldry, to us heraldic pedants, the loser is accuracy, hook, line, and several sinkers. Well, how do we create more heraldry? Organisations who already possess arms can be lobbied to use their arms more. In 1993, I was walking up a rebuilt Buchanan Street in Glasgow, admiring the attractive bulk of the new concert hall ahead. Grand as it was, there was nevertheless a feeling of emptiness across the expanse of the wall. Now, I had a great chum who worked in Glasgow City Chambers, and we met up, and I suggested the arms of Glasgow. What happened then let Glasgow flourish even more, for within 18 months, this 12-foot-high, painted fiberglass 3D version of the arms of the then Glasgow District Council was slung up to decorate that end wall, and is there to this day. This sets something of a pattern of Glasgow, because since then, there's even been pavement decoration like this. How do we make heraldry more accessible? Well, that's one of the purposes of tonight, to bring forward the idea that the Lyon Register will be open to all. It contains all coats of arms matriculated or recorded in Scotland since 1672, and it's wonderful that it's going to be digitised. It shows that heraldry is alive and living and of the moment. And the last quarter century too has seen successful Lord Lyons stepping out of their offices. And this business of literally showing the heraldic flag is a practice greatly developed by our current Lord Lyon, Dr. Joe Morrow. He's shown the face of heraldry by lecturing as far away as Australia. And as with his predecessor Lyons, he's gone into print. He's been kind enough to lend his name to several publications by writing forewords. And improved management within Lyon office now delivers significantly better turnaround times for intending armigers, intending owners of arms. Some of us can recall that from the date of lodging a petition, a request for arms, it could take up to 2 years before the finished arms were in the hands of a client. We have a delightful custom in Scotland where every Lyon graciously meets a new armiger, often personally handing over the letter's patent as well. I have to wonder how many other heraldic nations have such a courteous ritual. And here's, in the absence of Lyon, is Lyon Clark Russell Hunter and Yvonne Holton, herald painter, presenting letters patent to an American armiger, Brady Brim de Forest. And so to societies, specifically heraldic societies. We exist for hobby heraldists, of course, but what goes on through our work, our publications, our membership pervades or should pervade something of the world outside. How many of us have actually bearded lions in their dens and suggested arms? Some of us do, and it often works. Down the years, powerful proselytizers for heraldry have emerged, and let me mention one. 2 decades ago, the delightful Kathleen Corey took up chairmanship of the Heraldry Society of Scotland. And from day one, her leadership made the society meetings centres of interest, where boredom was banned and where fun and laughter ruled, and more than a little learning encouraged too. And when meetings had concluded, she set an example by taking newcomers under her wing and forming a kind of alternative heraldry society whose unspoken motto rapidly became, "No question is too simple nor apparently too stupid to be asked." And let me report that this alternative society remains alive and well and very much flourishing today. The eras of medieval design and fussy, cluttered images are long behind us, and amen to that. Artwork today yields us simple and splendid clarity. Here, a medical society in Aberdeen shows the before and after treatment. Right, the original painting of 3 decades ago, and left, the bright and uplifting modern version. And just look on that shield on the left, look at the updated, scary face of the snake on the left. And here's Hutcheson's Grammar School in Glasgow, updated version on the right. And look how this version on the right, painted just 3 years ago, carries verve and vivacity, and how by contrast those on the left are weak and insipid. We, as family and close friends, meet annually on a hilltop in West Aberdeenshire for our very own gathering and picnic. And we do so with banners, especially for the bairns. At least one new armiger has come out of this, and there, bottom right, are the arms of young Campbell Murray. So, who are the people who make heraldry interesting and relevant to us all? You may not know the names I'm going to mention, but I want to highlight how they contributed to making heraldry such a feature in 21st century Scotland. Banner maker Dr. Patrick Barden. Those are his arms, bottom left. Had Patrick had his way, Scotland would have been enveloped under a sea of gently fluttering flags, and his work added such vigorous colour to events such as the day the Lynach Highland and Friendly Society in West Aberdeenshire gained arms, and Patrick's infectious enthusiasm gained many to heraldry. Patrick it was who instituted the label as a major item of heraldry. A label is that device there that shows that the arms are borne by an eldest son, shown here on St Mungo's Museum in Glasgow. On the left the royal arms of Scotland, and that blue label indicates that Prince Charles is heir to the throne of Scots. Or here, the banner shown here shows a label indicating that the owner of the banner has a father who's still alive. When the old man dies, the elder son throws away the label. And Patrick Barden's innovative approach to flag design instituted a new era in Scotland's armoury, with his work proving a cornucopia of colour, cross and creature. While a rampant lion certainly bore a frightening ferocity, close inspection would reveal a twinkle in an eye. And his reintroduction of the medieval square banner was his reminder that our forefathers used this pattern because it flies better, and that the rectangular pattern currently dominating our streetscapes is in fact a style originally developed for use at sea. And Patrick scorned flags he described as so much bunting. His products burst forth in full and accurate colour for every occasion. Royal banners, national banners, society banners, personal banners, funeral banners, pipe banners, street banners, memorial banners, street banners, parade banners, as well as standards, guidons and gonfanons, meticulously correct in every heraldic detail. And in this 21st century, growing interest in flags has been highlighted by Lyon Morrow in appointing our first ever honorary vexillologist to Lyon office. A vexillologist, yes, I had to look up the word too, is a flag expert. And our expert is Philip Tibbets, who, when he's not designing flags for our communities across the kingdom, produces a fine line in heraldic whisky decanters. And that's Philip hoisting the county flag of Sutherland, a design he helped bring to fruition. And here's Philip with flag experts of the future. In this case, bairns from Elgall Primary School on Skye. They are proudly displaying the new flag of Caithness. And thanks to input from them and many other Skianachs, these youngsters and everyone else on Skye now have their own Skye flag. And Mark Dennis. Scotland is fortunate in possessing speakers who can employ learned lightheartedness, indeed as Mark will in his forthcoming lecture in Aberdeen next week. Behind the fun, Mark, a QC, he's an advocate, is such a learned champion of heraldry and for heraldic design. His constant theme is less is more. Show less, create more impact. And he's also organised and run courses as well as write books. And I mentioned Herald Liam Devlin earlier. Well, thanks to him, heraldists across the world and anyone else who cares to log on are treated to a weekly heraldic newsletter, and on such a welcome variety of topics. In these wretched days of the pestilence, Liam's made a blessing from a curse and brings his professionalism to bear in broadening heraldry into, for example, simple online lessons for youngsters. And if there's been one promoter of contemporary heraldry more than any other, it's been Anthony Maxwell. As a creator and driver of heraldry, he was unmatched, and his death from COVID last year represents a huge loss to Scotland. Anthony lived by three maxims: that of Mark Dennis of less is more, that of Patrick Barden in bringing animals to life, and his own golden rule of keep it simple. And through digital heraldry, Anthony demonstrated how coats of arms could be applied to wood, paper, stone, glass, metals, plastics and textiles. There's no doubt that his innovative approach to design created a new wave in the Scots heraldic psyche. His fans love his work. In turn, he greatly admired the style of Don Pottinger, outstanding heraldic artist of a generation ago. And here's Anthony's clever heraldic email signatures so redolent of dawn. Left to right at top, Reverend Bill Beaver, Robert Harrison, Dr. Malcolm Gollin, and me, and bottom from left, Jim Bingham, Dr. Gordon Williamson, Roy Peterson, an Invernessian who's here with his wife tonight, and Dr. Trevor Runcie and Surgeon Roy Scott. But even the calm, phlegmatic Anthony was taken aback when asked to produce the arms of Dr. Tom Tate on a large decal, now decorating Tom's historic carriage at a heritage railway centre in Derbyshire. If there are any anoraks here tonight, you'll instantly recognise that this is a British Rail Class 119 diesel multiple unit, the only one of its type in preservation. Anthony would go the extra mile, taking a client through every step of preparing a petition, and through his promotion of customer cause, more than a few folk have had their names added to the Lyon register. A case in point is Dr. Irene Watt, university friend, academic, musician, and daughter of an Aberdeenshire fishing skipper. I'd delivered yet another lecture when Irene approached me afterwards and asked if she could gain arms. I put her on to Anthony, and the upshot are these. When Anthony heard that Irene was to take up a short-term appointment to the Middle East, he created a splendidly Bowdlerized crest for her so that the arms on her business card would not cause local offence. Left is Irene's green real crest, and on the right, the first ever example of heraldry featuring a bikini top. This giant poster was paid for by the late John Burnet in the United States and created by Anthony Maxwell. An astonishing piece of heraldic work, beautiful, intricate, and a minor lesson in how a root coat of arms can be transformed in so many interesting ways. In the centre are the root arms, those of James Burnet of Leys, Chief of Burnet, Chief of the Arms and Name of Burnet. Ladies and gentlemen, let me go off-piste just for a second here. I have the most minor family connection with this gorgeous panorama. See the top line, fourth from left, the arms of John Burnet of Daladies. My 5 great-grandfather, John Stewart, neighbour in Kincardineshire to William Burness, father of Robert Burns, had 2 daughters. The younger daughter married John Stewart of Daladies, but his elder daughter married a shepherd from whom I'm descended. So instead of being Burnet of Daladies, I'm just Casely of really nowhere at all. This has blighted my life, and sometimes I wake up screaming at 3 a.m. The overriding theme in good 21st century heraldry surely is less is more. Show less, create more impact. Don Pottinger, Patrick Barden, Mark Dennis, Anthony Maxwell, Philip Tibbets, all proponents of less is more and keep it simple. A rising star in the heraldic firmament is Kevin Gregg, already with a score of heraldic scalps under his belt. Kevin's distinctive style shows in this painting of his own arms. Look at the power displayed in his raven crest. Here's one beastie you certainly wouldn't want in your face. And Kevin's enthusiasm for heraldry runs in his family. His father-in-law, John Mackay, gained arms some years ago, so Kevin and his wife, Katrina, used their marital arms. Kevin's Gregg arms on the left of the shield, and Katrina's Mackay arms on the right. And this conjoining of arms is called impaling. Kevin is much involved in Glen Isla Games, possibly Scotland's smallest Highland gathering. And thus, when the Games celebrated 150 years of existence in 2019, Kevin made sure that there was heraldry in abundance. The Duke of Rothesay, Prince Charles, put a royal seal on the day's event, A royal visit that beforehand was surely Glenilla's worst-kept secret. It says much for the prince that nobody was left without a royal handshake, even unto every member of the pipe band. As a piper myself, I would have appreciated that. Peeping out on the right is Dr. Robert Lovey, member of the Prince's staff in Scotland, and another new recruit to heraldry, and those are his brand new arms that you can see. A thoroughly modern development is the use of place names as mottos. Left to right, Jim Bingham with Glengarrow, a glen near Kilsyth, Kevin Gregg with Crinoch, a burn near Cooter in Aberdeen, and Roy Scott, Bellandane, the great Scott gathering place in the Borders. There's surely a lecture out there waiting to be researched on place names as mottos. Have we any volunteers? Let's start with world records for the longest and shortest times in gaining arms, beginning with the longest. I first became involved with arms for Bankery Community Council. I live 6 miles away, in giving a presentation on why they should gain arms and how they might use them. This was in 1982. They finally gained arms in 2019, 37 years of pushing water uphill and such negativism as I hope never to encounter ever again. Nor would the arms have been gained but for the generosity of spirit and means of James Burnet of Lays, aforementioned Chief of Burnet. But having gained the arms, the Council shows little inclination to apply them in any way. You can't say the same for Aberdeen Family History Society on the left and the Guild Burgesses of Aberdeen. While it's true that each took a quarter century to make up their minds, it was the old case of being slow to start and then leaping ahead when they became armigerous. Aberdeen Family History Society, what a cracker of a motto, isn't it? Aye, Chavanawa. It sums up what the hard work involved in family history is. Aberdeen Family History Society use their arms everywhere. Their unspoken motto is, if it stands still for more than 5 minutes, put the arms on it. And we don't quite know when the Guild of Burgesses of Aberdeen was founded, though it was certainly in existence during the 12th century reign of King David I. We have a document, which I've held in my hand, dated 1180 in Aberdeen City Archives mentioning the Burgesses. Lyon Morrow needed no persuasion to grant supporters, that's the heraldic beasties either side of the shield, and a great heraldic honour. He needed no persuasion to grant supporters. And he graciously added his presence to the Burgesses in handing over the letters patent in fine ceremony. And as with Aberdeen Family History Society, the Burgesses used their heraldry with gusto, even unto a banner with a pointed banner bearer. But they went farther. Here they are on the ceiling of the townhouse in Aberdeen, amongst ancient coat of arms. These 21st century arms are there, helping to decorate the Victorian ceiling. Now there's a fine opportunity for this splendid townhouse for a similar event. Why not? And if Bankery took 37 years in the desert, then Aberdeen Association of Civil Engineers occupies the opposite end of the time scale. They asked me to present on whether they could or should have arms. I presented, and the decision came through in 12 minutes. These arms are of such simplicity: a bridge over water, a stream, a cross-section of a pipe half filled with water, the sweep of a bend in a road, a ditch, a mound, all works of civil engineering. And the livery colours, red and silver, are those of Aberdeen, with the demi-leopard, the half-leopard at the top there, holding an annulet of the annulet representing the mathematical element of civil engineering. And the leopard also appears on the arms of Aberdeen. The association leapt forward right from the moment they got their arms. Their annual dinner in the centre of the President's badge, a lapel badge on the right for everybody at the dinner, and all their stationery. And they used them from that day to this. And Lyon motto, travelled to Aberdeen personally to hand over the arms. What's the best age to gain arms? The answer is, you're never too young, nor are you too old. I've just finished handling for a nonagenarian lady, 92-year-old Mrs. Catherine Liston. Since she has no family, she wants to leave behind some record of her time on this earth. And similarly, Colonel David Cobbett is 93, retired Director of British Rail, distinguished international rail consultant, and whom I first met 45 years ago when he was General Manager of BR Scotland. Colonel Cobbett's arms on the shield depict corbies or crows, punning birds, Corby, Cobbett. And because he was a professional railwayman, each corby clutches a steam locomotive driving wheel. And here's Mr. Cobbett with the document confirming his arms being personally presented at his home last month in Boated Garton by the Lord Lyon himself. And at the other end of the age scale is a young Aberdonian, John Stephen. He saw personal heraldry in use, and he liked what he saw. His starting point was the watercolour sketch on the right, produced by his girlfriend, and the upshot is that he gained arms last year. Sir Ian Macmillan and I go back half a century to the time when I was a young reporter and he was a simple bank teller. He rose to become director of the CBI in Scotland and was made CBE for his work. Then he was knighted in recent times, and on being made a K, I suggested that he might gain arms, and the upshot are these. Beautifully simple, directly relating to his Macmillan clan chief, as indeed they should. Ian loves them, and as the father of 3 sons, he and his wife have a ready-made dynasty to continue the arms. Ian is a knight, therefore his helmet is open, facing the front. His eldest son, with a label, has a gentleman's helmet facing left. And there's Ian's badge of knighthood and his insignia of a CBE. In this promulgation of heraldry, how do new armigers use it? I drew up this little paper showing how Aberdeen Family History Society might use its arms, and have not been disappointed at the uses and inventions to which their heraldry has been put, nor by the examples of others. This face mask of Stanley Bird, Secretary of the Heraldry Society of Scotland. The arms of the Very Reverend Dr. Emsley Nimmo, with his wonderful motto in Scots, Ne oor een selfs gar as glory, taken from the book of Corinthians. Emsley invested in his own heraldic flag, as you can see here. And incidentally, Dr. Nimmo is one of the speakers at the Clan Donald lunch in Dramosie Hotel next month, immediately following the annual Culloden service of commemoration. A book plate of Albert Thomson on the left, with the arms of the Royal Celtic Society on the right, the Society arms impaled or conjoined with those of Dr. Alan Hay, the current chairman. But I want to focus on the central image, how Peebles Community Council uses the arms of Peebles on street signs throughout the town. This is a practice which originated in Cromarty on the Black Isle and was quickly taken up by Bewley and by Dingwall. And it also exists in the borders across Kelso, Hawick, Selkirk, Galashiels, Melrose and Dunse, quite apart from Peebles. My two grandsons employ their heraldry everywhere, even when leaning over the platform wall at Stonehaven Station. And for the wider family, there are crest badges. That's younger grandson Cameron wearing his in his kilt on the right. This wall of heraldry is a feature of Clan Macpherson Museum in Newton Moor, and it sets a record as the largest display of single-name heraldry in the world. And it's right here in Scotland and just down the road from us. Heraldry is indeed all around us. Look for the arms of Tesco on every cab door of a Tesco delivery lorry. How did the company come by its name? Well, Jack Cohen in Victorian London, East End of London, was a grocer. Because of his Jewish faith, was subject to some vilification and occasional broken windows. And so he decided to change the name above his shop from Jack Cohen to something else. So he hit on the idea of using the first two letters of his surname, preceded by the initial letters of his supplier, Thomas Edward Stockwell, Tesco. On the left, a silver hip flask engraved with the arms of Norman Macpherson, and on the right, Robert Harrison, chairman of the Heraldry Society of England, a very keen motorcyclist. So, there you are. Now, a health warning. The next slide features a bottle of whisky with a heraldic label. You may well feel that you need a dram from it when you see, on the right of it, how one very recent armiger displays his arms. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he's also a doctor. And now, the heraldry of death. Nowadays, when someone dies, we put a notice in the papers, the P&J or the Inverness Courier. But in older times, a device called a hatchment was hung over the front door, and that indicated death. Curiously, there has been a 21st century revival in use of hatchments. Here we have Mark Dennis, advocate, herald and friend, who produced this beautifully painted hatchment last year for use at Holyrood House to mark the death of the Duke of Edinburgh. And closer to home, my dear dad fell seriously ill at 84 and wasn't expected to live. And bless him, Mark Dennis produced a hatchment in record time, ready for my father's expected funeral. But the old man hadn't read the script and lived for another 10 years. And so he hung the hatchment in his front room and raised a glass to it every night. And here's my old friend Steve Slater having a dress rehearsal for his funeral. So where do we go from here? What conclusions might we draw? At the outset, I said that I think there has been a rise in grants of arms in Scotland. The evidence of my own eyes suggests this, and 21st century technology greatly assists us. And there's anecdotal evidence too. I hear that in this contemporary quest for identity, that the office of the Lord Lyon has never been busier. If so, then if the graph of Scotland's heraldic growth were exemplified across the UK economy, the Chancellor of the Exchequer would be a very happy man indeed. Our leading historian is Professor Sir Tom Devine. Years ago, I attended a lecture by him when he held the chair of history at Aberdeen University. In this lecture, he averred that the distinctive growth in Scots' identity in the second half of the 20th century was due to 3 points: the fall of empire, the decimation of our heavy industry, and this third point is the encouraging one, that new and very different businesses have created new and very different cultures. And he termed this last emotional identity. These words, his employment of the term emotional identity can so easily be applied to heraldry in Scotland in modern times. And in this book, my old friend Charles Burnett writes, "The desire for legitimate corporate and individual identity has never been stronger." Absolutely, this issue of identity yet again. Mankind craves identity in all its forms. Just look at the rise in personalised car number plates. And what better than heraldry, the discipline which marks, identifies, decorates and informs a personal or corporate visual benchmark for all time. Yes, and a very happy occasion when Elizabeth Rhodes, as Snowdon Herald, presented letters patent to Aberdeen Family History Society. So let me conclude. More than 55 years ago, when I started out as a young newspaper reporter, I quickly learned that the only way to get stories was to get out there and meet people. What my old news editor called using the shoe leather. We who are here this evening are evidently interested in heraldry, otherwise we wouldn't be here. So may I gently suggest that we use the heraldic shoe leather to get out there, to preach, to publicise, to promote, to proselytise, to lecture, to write to the papers, to lobby, to get friends interested, to get out there into the marketplace. And to conclude, therefore, on this note of unashamedly marketing of heraldry, 1/5 of the 21st century has already passed by. There are only 4/5 left. So in the remaining 78 years, let's go for it.